Hey guys, Jonathan and I are here, and the excitement level in this room
Through
is
the roof.
brimming.
Through the roof.
It is through the roof
It's
because
uncontainable.
in front of us is a product that we've been working on for a while. You guys have been talking about it a lot, and it took a lot of doing. It took a lot of thinking. It took a lot of making consistently the correct choices. It's what we're hoping.
I mean,
and
most of all, the exciting thing is we get to revisit the data token line.
we get to revisit the data
right?
token
We get
line.
to play around in that world some more.
Very
And
important.
It's always a great time.
So what we have here are click trackers.
Oh my gosh.
Designed for use, of course, with Netrunner, the living card game. Now, click trackers are a very interesting beast, right? There's a lot of thoughts about click trackers. Do you use click trackers? Do you not use click trackers? Are they ever worse for the game? Worse for like the clarity of the game state? Should they be used at all times? Should they be required in tournament play? All sorts of things. And what we wanted to do was basically bridge the gap between the player who says click trackers are necessary from a functional perspective and the player who says, I don't want to use click trackers because they take away from the game for me. They take away from the theme, and it's like, I don't want to just be tracking these things that the game has to keep track of.
Yeah.
So, Jonathan,
Yes.
what did we do with these
Well,
click trackers?
there's a lot of
Explain to
things.
our friends out there in the
Just
web.
like I think, just like with the rest of the data token set, we really looked at it and said, how can we integrate this into the story of that cyberpunk universe? And I think the best way to do that is basically by having it look like a console. Look like, this is the thing that I imagine you would see, maybe in your HUD as you're cruising around the interwebs, hacking and doing
the
running, all that stuff. So this is the kind of thing that says, hey, you've got this much time left before stuff gets really bad. And so that's sort of the starting point. And so as you can see, there's lots of little like bars and graphs and charts and a lot of really futuristic UI elements. But they all sort of point back to what click it is, where you are in your turn, but still within keeping it within the narrative, which I think is one of the greatest parts about this game.
Yeah, no, I've gone back and forth on click trackers many times. Like during tournaments, a lot of times I will try to use them, and I usually kind of fall away because they're not fun to use for me, and I don't usually just like keep track of things that way. It's normally like 1, 2, 3, 4 past the turn. And whenever we started nearing in on the end of these click trackers, I found myself starting to use them in the games of Netrunner that I was playing because I do genuinely love them that much. So running it down from the top, I mean, as far as an element of the game that's tracking time, I don't think it gets any more clear than this. We have the number of the click on the front side of the token, as well as a time representation of that number at the top of the token, which really adds to kind of the flavor of the time and
Clock.
things counting down, and the fact that you're actually spending time doing things like, bank jobs and installing programs, so that these things take time. There's also a representation of that in a much smaller way, which is essentially the 4-quadrant pie chart that fills up as if it were a clock moving around from a 12 o'clock position all the way around to, again, the 12 o'clock position. That's also on the front, but more importantly, you have a representation of these things in a much more theoretical, I guess, abstract way on the back. So once you flip these click trackers over, you have the same kinds of representations in different ways so that you're not confused as to whether or not you've actually spent that click or not. But It's really cool to see, and it kind of tracks that timeline for you. Because once you flip it over, you've got the top, like the dots fill in to show you 1, 2, 3, 4 rather than the numbers, because you don't want a number on the back to say, oh, did he spend the click or not?
Yeah, the information is always right there at your fingertips, but different enough to where if someone else is using them across the table from you, they can see. If you just glance down, you can see. That was one of the big design considerations that we wanted to make.
You've got to be able to clearly see when a click is spent and when there's a click remaining, because that is a mistake that you make once in a tournament.
Yep.
And then you're like, oh, I thought he only had 2 clicks left, and then I used this ability, and then as it turns out, it didn't work out in my favor.
And also the back of the beach is unique. It's all talking to what click is it, where are you. It makes it very clear to see where you are within the whole nature of things.
And as an added bonus, for those of you who are exceptionally good with your clicks, which I tried to do for a little while, included a little bit of an arrow here on the back so that if you're so inclined, you can actually move these things around and point them to whatever actions it is that you took. I like to do that, like I'll set them in front of my deck and it's pointing to my deck to say, hey, you drew a card, don't forget that, or pointing to various other things on the board to say, hey, this is where that first click went, and I see from the back of the click tracker itself that the click was 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it was spent in this place, and that allows me to kind of make better decisions as I'm playing the game. So the click trackers as a whole, I think you guys are going to absolutely love these things. We wanted to design the best, most flavorful click tracker we possibly could, while also providing the greatest function throughout the game.
And that's, I think, one last thing on function is if you do play a lot of tournaments, and we've seen, especially if you watch the videos we post up, you see a lot of where it would be very beneficial to track your opponent's clicks and track your own clicks. And, everyone forgets something, that's fine. But you can, if you have them all over, then you can easily load them back up and sort of see how it goes.
As your opponent takes actions, you just flip them back.
If you're a runner, okay, their one click is the card, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that way you can it always loads back up, unloads, loads back up, et cetera, so you can really see and keep track of not only your clicks, but your opponent's clicks, and make sure that all the games are running smoothly.
Now, on top of this, there are some interesting situations that come up in the game of Netrunner, especially there's the new Amped Up event coming for the Anarchs in Order and Chaos, which starts to manipulate clicks in a much more, numerous way. So you might gain 2 bonus clicks, 3 bonus clicks, and there has to be a way to represent that too. And just due to the nature, kind of the ethereal nature of the way that clicks appear and disappear, especially as bonus clicks, it's like, okay, so my second click, I'm going to gain 2 clicks, and then on my third click, I'm going to gain 4 clicks. And it's like, how do you keep track of all that? And we didn't want to use numbers on those, but instead have kind of a more abstract representation of what it means to get a bonus click. And so we do have bonus clicks available as well. So we have the standard set, which is the 1, 2, 3, 4, which is what most of the time you need during the game of Netrunner.
Yep.
But then, for those of you that are going to be spending a lot of time using bonus clicks, we have a set to match that concept as well.
Yeah.
So you've got your bonus click design here, and it kind of just shows this confusing emptiness that the court must be feeling.
Yeah,
the runner must be
empty
feeling
bracket.
Whenever it's like, I thought that I had accounted for all the things that they were capable of doing, and now this kind of came out of nowhere and it's sitting around. And it has a look that is very similar to all your other click trackers, but also quite clearly different, so that these are bonus things. Like I just played my Biotic Labor, I'm going to slide in one of these bonus clicks, and that way it's represented appropriately. You've got 0 as the time code on the top.
It's just sort of like glitching
It's like, what happened?
What's going on?
You got an empty bracket where the number should be, but it's not accounted for because you don't know where it is. And when you flip it over, you have basically an empty outlined circle. The same at the top, all the top circles are outlined in the same way. So you kind of have this feeling of there's something happening, but it feels like
it's
it came
outside
out of
the
nowhere.
program. You just fell through the world.
Exactly. We inceptioned ourselves. So that's it. The click trackers design and function. We, like I said, we play a lot of Netrunner, and whenever we're playing, we always use the products that we're making because we want them to be as good as they can for the game.
And actually, I maybe I shouldn't say this, but one of the things I've started doing is this empty bracket also looks very much like a deck. So if you're playing Corp, you can replace your 1 with that. And now all of a sudden, okay, yeah, I draw first, second, third, fourth, or 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
You're a wily man like that. And on top of this, we wanted to not really limit ourselves to a particular color, because when it comes to tracking your clicks and having your deck and having your special place in the Netrunner world, you like a lot of customization, as I do. I like to represent, myself as a player in various ways.
This is my console.
So they're offered in every color that we have, aside from clear. Obviously, clear
my favorite color
isn't something. Yeah, you're clearly your favorite color, as you've said many times. Not something that we were in a position to launch with right now. Maybe we'll revisit a clear click tracker in the future. But we have all 9 colors to offer. We've got, on the dark end of the spectrum, we've got like the black, the dark purple, and the dark red, which are very cool. They have a nice kind of hue that shows. They are pretty dark on the table, but as you pick them up to flip them, they have that little flare that kind of gives you those cool goosebumps if you're like me and maybe a little too into custom products. We also have, then moving into like our darker blues and dark greens, which can be really useful, obviously, for those criminals and shaper players out there. But we also have the light blue and light green for another take on those colors. They have more of a transparency, so that parallax is really working a lot better for them, which some players enjoy, some players like, and then some players like a more subtle parallax.
You can see very well the beginning.
And then on the final, we've got the oranges and the yellows, both of which I think are super beautiful on the table, obviously represent some factions in the game, and have that really strong, rich parallax that I'm, as I said, a really huge fan of. So 9 colors, fully functional We hope very well designed click trackers for use both with your data tokens or separate from, just as a standalone ability to track your clicks.
Just something to make it a little bit easier.
And you'll love using them. That's really what it has to be to get somebody to track their clicks very well. Is it has to be fun, it has to be enjoyable.
And if we've done our job correctly, you'll feel like you're in cyberspace. That's number one.
So feel like you're in cyberspace. Grab a set of click trackers, and thank you guys so much for supporting us in our Netrunner addiction. We'll see you guys later.